Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 3. I am so excited to provide this week overview with everybody this week. If you haven't had a chance to look at my introduction video yet, my name is Kelly. I am the TA for Lifestyle and Career Development this term with you. So excited for us to dive into this material. So let's go ahead and hop on into it. So for today, we're going to be talking about some things that I'm pretty sure we all have had some contact with and didn't even realize that it dealt with career counseling. So first topic's going to go over laws that career counselors should know about. Also, how do we become an ethical career counselor? And last but not least, what does that process look like in terms of providing career counseling to clients? Is it a lot different than what we see when we think about mental health counseling? So let's go ahead and start reviewing. So with chapter 7, there were a few questions that came up as I was going through that chapter. So my first question is, why did Frank Pearson care about employment laws? Like, why did that even matter to him, right? And so as we're going through the chapter, what we learn is that it really was about that emphasis that's placed on social justice and fair employment practices, right? So if we're really wanting to help people find success and satisfaction with employment, there is a need for there to be some equity there, right? If we go back to, the industrial time when people were in a very unsafe environment working, but they had to take care of their families, we can see how this is a very huge piece of the puzzle, right? And so what it does now is really advocate for how do we make vocational guidance look ethical? How do we make sure that the people that are needing these services are actually being treated in a ethical way that is also legal, right? So that is how we got there. And think about it, we have a lot of laws around employment. So it's really hard for us as career counselors not to see the benefits of those things, but also how do we keep advocating for additional changes? So as we think about the next question, which is question number 2, why do employment doctrines matter today? And the real thing to this is we have to understand. We have to understand what the workforce looks like, right? And so a lot of that language comes from those doctrines, right? So contracts. There are contracts that we go into whenever we start employment. So what does that look like and how does that either benefit or also technically could harm our clients, right? At will employment is another thing that we have to think about too, right? So when we are thinking about, this isn't the same thing that, was in place hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? Now it's like, okay, we're going into this. This is a partnership. This is a two-way street, right? But with that, we also have to think about it in terms of like, okay, what if there are some things that would harm a person because of not having justified causes for termination? So, question 3, what we are seeing is that what are some of the most important employment laws career counselors should know? And there are a lot of them, right? So when we think about those signs that are up in our office spaces, that is what we really are talking about here, right? We want to make sure that there is a lot of equity that's taking place, but then also understanding what are our clients' rights, right? So all of these things are very important. I'm not going to go down the whole list, but think about it in the sense of how do we practice things in an equitable way, right? So eliminating some of that discrimination that happens, right? So we do have things that are in place for that. Also, protections when you're in the workforce, right? We need to know about these things as we're helping a person understand and navigate this world. Also, termination, right? Termination can play a really huge part on a person's mental health, right? So we have to understand what that looks like in the inner workings of those things as well, too. So now it brings us to chapter 8. And my 4th question when I got into this chapter is, what are the top ways we can act ethically in our work as career counselors? So competence, that is the first step that we take. We want to make sure that we have the skills and knowledge and we're not just, faking it till we make it. We're actually going out and developing those skills. And this can be through credentialing. This can be through licensure. This can be done in several different ways, right? And we also need to know the ethical principles that are behind how we do our work, right? So knowing them inside and out and being really familiar with how do we operate as a counselor that is ethical in our practices, no matter which specialty area we're in. So question number 5 is, how do we ensure our ethics align with our professional standards? We have to make sure that we know those code of ethics, having it there, being able to access them, knowing them, right? This is how we get comfortable with understanding those things, right? About confidentiality, privacy, knowing about what are my responsibilities? How do I collaborate? How do I get consultation from others? How do I use assessments in an ethical way, right? That does not harm my clients. Also, online services. Is this client appropriate for online services? We do have to make that judgment call. Also, when do I need to seek out supervision? When do I need to do a little bit more digging into research? So we have to always be thinking about these things as we're going through and trying to, not just trying, acting as an ethical counselor. Question number 6. How do we keep growing ethically in an ever-changing field? We have to start asking ourselves very hard questions, right? So dilemmas are going to happen, things that you've never experienced or seen before. So utilizing a decision-making model is going to help us with that, but also just staying familiar with the changes, right? I know when I went to a conference last year, we started really digging into AI and talking about what that looks like and how that's a part of things. If we're acting as a career counselor, I know for myself within the field, I've had to do a lot with AI to help my clients when it comes to career development. So we have to be able to change with it as it comes along. Chapter 9, which is our last chapter, we'll go over a little bit today. Question number 7, which is, what are some of the key stages you would highlight in the career counseling process? These 3 stages, right? So beginning stage, that's when we're getting to know them. We're doing that welcome. We're really getting them used to what it is about counseling, right? We're helping them with the informed consent. We're talking through all of these things. Also, we're identifying what's brought them in and what goals do they have, and gathering background information. So it's, basically that biopsychosocial is still going to occur no matter which type of counseling you're doing, because you want to gather that information because it does play a role in what they're experiencing, even as it relates to career, but also personal life too. Middle stage, we want to also make sure that we are doing this one because this is where a lot of the work is going to happen, right? So we want to make sure that we're identifying strategies, assessments that are going to work for them, interventions, and really adjusting as needed to their growth patterns too, and acknowledging that progress as they're going along. And then we get to the end stage, and that's really about solidifying that. Okay, let's see how much you've grown. Let's talk about it. Also, let's figure out, how do we start to slowly decrease sessions. Seems like you're at a good stage right now where you got it, right? So you're having these conversations with them. Keep in mind, when you get to the end stage, you've already talked about that with them at the beginning, right? We start in the beginning to talk to them about how this process is going to work so that they have an understanding of it. So as we think about the last question, where this one's more so related to the article that we have this week, how has COVID-19 changed things for the career counseling world? Tremendously. So we have seen a lot of things that happen, right? So higher rates of unemployment, mental health has definitely been affected by COVID. The balance between family and work, and a lot of people want remote work, right? And so now that line is blurred where it's like, okay, I'm home, but I'm working, but I still have things to do at home, right? So all of these things have changed. And yet we still experience some of the same employment disparities that we've had over the decades, right? So we have to be aware that even in this time, there are some things that are going to affect how people show up in the workforce. So let's go. I want us to try some things out. I have a Kahoot game, so I'm going to put this up here so that you can go ahead and hop on that. This is just a review to kind of give you some information about what to expect. And again, the main goal here is to provide another resource to help with studying for not just the NCE, but just in general, just to get familiar with the material. And as I said before, thank you for being here. Hopefully you play the game, so thanks for playing the game. I'm going to go ahead and claim it now that that's what's going to happen. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. If you wanted any kind of overview of any of these questions, had any questions about any of them, please let me know. But again, try out the Kahoot game. I think it probably could be really helpful to kind of give you an idea of where you're at with the studying process. All right. Well, thank you all for giving me your attention for these 10 minutes. I hope you all have a great day, and I will be here if you need me.